Hey guys, what's happening? Thanks very much for joining me tonight, and really appreciate you hanging out with us. Tonight, as the title sort of suggests, going to talk a bit about the arcade cabinets coming up in the next year. What's ahead of us, and as someone sort of put out the other day that this is the year of the Wi-Fi enabled cabinets. Now, what do we mean by that? How is this going to be a thing going forward? Well, I think that if we take a look back, first of all, like the ones that are selling to us now, Arcade One, At Games, iArcade, they haven't really been going very long when we think about it. At Games has maybe been about a bit longer than the other two because they've done other things before they started in the home arcade. They made little like standalone kind of consoles, like there was a Sega thing from years ago that was notoriously bad before they got into sort of home arcade, I guess. Arcade 1UP, they've only been going from, what was it, 2018, 2019, so only a few years, and iArcade's just past its first year, really. So we don't have an awful lot to look back on. However, looking back at, especially with Arcade 1UP, they really started selling us nostalgia. That was their big selling point. Like when they came out, this one beside me is a perfect example, and it was the reason I bought it. An original artwork Turtles 4-player machine that I could have in my home. That was the selling point. That was entirely it, and that pulled me in. Yes, I want that. I want a 4-player Turtles cabinet. I want to sit and I want to play with other people the way I did when I was young. So I went out and I bought it, and I got the Mortal Kombat machine as well shortly after. But as with most things, people get used to that sort of thing. They're bored with that now, and it becomes a, well, what else have you got? You've got to keep innovating and improving on what you're putting out. Otherwise, someone else is going to do it, and they're going to surpass you, and you're going to get left in the dust. And this is what we're talking about with the Wi-Fi and the connected cabs moving forward. The Wi-Fi on these cabinets, they serve multiple purposes, and it's what we want or what we decide is worth it, and that will direct what Arcade 1-Up, that will direct what iArcade and AtGames do going forward. So I see it as like three main features when it comes to the Wi-Fi or the connectivity. The first one is updates. The big problem with some of the older cabinets is that once they're out, that's it. There's not an easy way of getting updates out to the end user. There have been occasions on one or two of the older cabinets where they have released a firmware, and the only way of getting it to install is to download it, put it onto an SD card, and then there is it's a USB drive in the back of the old ones. You can put it onto a thumb drive and then take the back off the cabinet and put it in there, switch on the cabinet, and the cabinet will read an update. But a lot of people don't want to do that. Or didn't even know that there was an update or a firmware update for the cabinets. And I think one of the examples was a screen filtering option on one of the Pac-Man machines, which they then removed. Great idea, that's brilliant. But if it was Wi-Fi enabled, they could have just pushed that out. That's the best part of these cabinets being Wi-Fi enabled. That if something goes wrong, or they just want to make a change, put something out that makes just a simple improvement. A great example is the class of 1981, the cabinet that it hasn't been out very long. It's the half and half of Miss Pac-Man and Galaga. Now, when they released that, one of the comments that came back immediately was, "Where is the fast fire mode for Galaga?" Because that was one of the features of this cabinet, was that yes, it had Miss Pac-Man and yes, it had Galaga on it, but they weren't just the stock games. They were slight variations from them on this cabinet. Miss Pac-Man included a turbo mode and Galaga had a fast fire mode, and they could be activated. The turbo mode for Miss Pac-Man was there, but the fast fire for Galaga was missing, or at least the option to activate it was missing. That went up in the community. People were fairly annoyed, and Arcade 1-Up just went, "Whoops, sorry, forgot about that," pushed out an update, and it became available. That is exactly what we want from these cabinets. And we're not saying that Wi-Fi has to be, big multiplayers and spectator modes and things like that. But it has to be there to be able to put out these quality of life improvements. And I think that's the baseline going forward, that even if these cabinets don't have any of the big shining features, that they at least have the ability to pull down an update when needed. Because otherwise you may end up with, it's gone through quality assurance, whatever that may be, from Arcade 1-Up's point of view, which hasn't really been great. But if something is missed or something is wrong, if they can fix it in a firmware update, push that out, that makes the experience so much better. And that's what you want. You want people to be talking about your product. You want people, in a good light, you want people to be going out to their friends and going, "I got that a few months ago. It's fantastic. I love it." Moving on from that, there's things like the leaderboards. The leaderboards are great, and for some people who love the score chase, they're a big thing. We'll jump over and I can show you here. So there's a number of the different companies. They've all put in leaderboards in a different way. I suppose when we look back, the first one to do it would have been AtGames, so we'll sort of start with them. So if we have a look, AtGames, you can access the leaderboards on the machines, but you also have the ability to go on to ArcadeNet and sort of have a look at the big leaderboards for all different games, as you can see here. Now these are the leaderboards for this is my personal high scores. So as you can see, I haven't really broken the high scores too much. There's a couple of pinball games there. Bubble Bobble, I've been knocked down to 18th. I was in the top 10, but it was just the ones that are pushing the scores up there is just absolutely insane. I think when I was in the top 10, the highest score was 1 million, and now I think it's about 4.8 million for the number one spot, which I think I actually have a screenshot of. We'll get into that in a minute, but there. The scores are just wild, but that's competition. People are looking at that going, I can beat that score, I know I can, and it drives people to play more. At Games has done it pretty well, I would say. The ability to, if we sort of jump over to a bit more of a granular look at it, so there is the, wow, no, I was wrong. It's 5.7 million is the top score for Bubble Bobble. Yeah, I've been pushed way down. But yes, you can filter things slightly differently on the Act Games side of things, which I really enjoy. For example, if you look at the column for devices, it's all the different devices that the game is playable on. So the top guy there, he's playing it on the Legends Ultimate, the big stand up, and then you see down here you've got the Gamer Pro and things like that. So that's really cool, especially when you're trying to filter by pinball. I usually filter by people that are also playing on the Gamer Pro because the controls are slightly different. I'm making excuses as to why my pinball scores are so low, but it's a nice little thing to do. They also split it into a monthly and a weekly high score as well. So I think at one stage I was top of the leaderboard in the monthly and the weekly for that particular round. But then it gets reset, and you've got fresh competition. So even if you're looking at the all time and I'm never gonna get anywhere close to that. Well, he can't get back onto the leaderboard, not without beating his high score. So you can go on to the monthly and you can go on to the weekly, and you can post your high score, and you'll get up there, and there's your bragging rights for the week, there's your bragging rights for the month. Number one, take a screenshot, post it wherever you want. Fantastic, love that. Now, when it comes to the Wi-Fi for At Games, they do also have a few other little bits and pieces that I think are cool and probably were really well received when they first launched. The problem I have is that they've done nothing else with them. They haven't improved on it. They've kind of gone, this is it, what do you think? And people have gone, yeah, it's really good. Good, because we're not going to touch it again. Like, for example, what do they call it? The ArcadeNet itself, the ability to stream other games from their servers onto your device and play them. So they're, for example, we'll talk about the Gamer Pro. There's 150 games on that machine. Then you go on to ArcadeNet, and there's quite a few other ones. I want to say there's another 50, 60 games on there that you can stream. Now the streaming does require a paid subscription, which is a bit balls, but you can, like, the amount of times that they've been giving away a free month, a free 3-month trial, that kind of thing. You can get on, you can have a go at them, and the streaming actually works really well. They started streaming the pinball games as well once they got the performance tweaks out of the way. Now, in that time, they haven't added any new games. The games have always been the same. There's no rotation of them. There's no additional game packs. It's like they've gone, this is our infrastructure, we're happy with it, we're not going to go out and get new licenses, this is your lot. Which is a bit, I mean, you're not going to keep paying the subscription if it's not going to change, if it's not going to progress. I played a few games on it, and I thought they worked really well, even though I'm connecting to a server over in the States. But after my free time was up, I didn't renew it because by that stage I'd played the games that I wanted. I'd played Metal Slug, I'd played Bomb Jack. I'm trying to think of a few other ones that were on there that I grabbed. It was quite some time ago. So they haven't really done anything new. Now, they do have other features on it, and it was because of the Gamer Pro that I've actually got back into live streaming, especially gameplay, and that sort of evolved into things like this. The ability to live stream directly from the device was a big thing. That now again, it wasn't implemented perfect because the microphones that you can interact with, they have to be Bluetooth, and there's only certain ones that seem to work with it, and the only ones I could get to work with it were really bad quality ones. So if you go back to any of my early ones where I'm streaming from the deck itself, there's no frames dropping or anything like that, but my microphone quality was terrible, and I tried a number of different ones, and ones that sounded really good when I tested didn't connect to the device, and it was really, really frustrating. And there is a USB on the back of that machine, but you can't plug in a USB microphone or headset. It won't be recognized, and that's something that surely that's an easy firmware fix, because it's not just for charging that the deck, that USB. You can plug into a PC or anything like that, and that deck is then seen as a controller. So it definitely has the ability to transfer data. So the ability to plug in a headset or a microphone or anything like that should be a simple one, but they haven't implemented it. And it goes the same with their lobby system. You need the microphone, you need the headset to connect into it, and honestly, when I was playing against people on the lobbies, it's really cool that I can talk to someone on the other side of the world and play, but honestly, it sounded like I was talking to someone who was either underwater or was eating a bag of gravel. It was so much easier just to put my phone beside me and either FaceTime them or go through WhatsApp. That was a much better experience than trying to listen to what they were saying on the headset through the lobby system. The lobby system was great for inviting people into games. I think that worked really well, but the voice chat needs to be either worked on, or they need to revamp it and allow connection in through the USB for better quality microphones. I couldn't honestly say what was causing the problem, whether it was bad transfer in the bitrate or if it was just a bad microphone. I've tried recording just onto my phone when I can Bluetooth into it, and it all seemed to work perfectly fine. I can hear my voice great on it, but when I was live streaming, it just went downhill. But those are the kind of things that they should be working on. They should be striving for improvement, because they are going to be left behind. And I think that's what's going to happen to AtGames. They are still working hard on the pinball side of things. That seems to be the only steps forward that they're taking. Like it sort of not really leaked, but when their commercial version of the pinball machine was put up for advertisement and things like that, they did put on to the blurb that there was going to be more pinball game packs coming in the next year or two. So we know that's something that they're working on, but they're not doing anything in regards to the big stand-up arcade. I think they've just forgotten about that. They're happy with what they're doing with the pinball, and yeah, they're just forgetting about the arcade side of things, and that's a big shame. Now I know they're not a big company, but I think you're neglecting part of your audience, and these are the people that are that are supposed to be singing your praises. They're supposed to be out there saying the product is great, the service is great, and we're not. I can honestly say that the Gamer Pro I love, but I very rarely use any of AtGame's services on it. Anyway, if we go on a wee bit, we'll take a look at the way that Arcade One Up have implemented the leaderboards as well. This is just an example of one of the ones that we have here. So the leaderboards for the Arcade One Up stuff can only be accessed from the cabinet, which take it or leave it, it is what it is. There's no payment or anything from Arcade One Up's side of things. This is all just done free. The Depending on the cabinet that you're on, there's different leaderboards. So, for example, on this one, this was the one of the Miss Pac-Man ones. If you're looking at, say, the class of 81, going back to that one, there's a leaderboard for Galaga, and then there's a leaderboard for Galaga with fast shooting enabled, so that the two can't combine. Like if I'm playing Fast Fire, I'm obviously going to get better score than someone who's playing the normal Galaga who can only shoot once. That's pretty much a given. I've just noticed that number 2 has no score against him. What the hell happened there? And look at the gap on Adam 7. Jesus Christ, man. That's a hell of a score. But why's Nick got 0? Damn, I never even noticed that when I was taking the picture. Anyway, I think the scoreboards that they have on the different cabinets, they're really, really cool. Like the one that just came out, the Golden Tee cabinet. Like there's ones on there that I wouldn't really consider a leaderboard, like, but it's really cool to have. Like for the bowling, was it World Class Bowling? There's 2 leaderboards on there. One is the 710 split club, and one is the 300 club. Now that's something that is really cool. That's sort of bragging rights. Like, yes, I've hit a 710 split, or yes, I've bowled a perfect game, and your name is on there. Well, your username, but that's on there, and that's a really cool thing to have. Now there are cabinets out there that only have leaderboards, and that's still, it's added value, or it's perceived added value. It probably costs them little or nothing to fire a score and a username back and forth. It's stored somewhere on a small server because it's not going to take up a lot of information. How many people are we really talking about that are playing these games that are going to be posting high scores, and you're only going to get one high score per username on the game? It's definitely perceived added value. You know, you've got the Wi-Fi enabled. It's there because they need it there for the updates, but will also give you a leaderboard, which is really, really cool. I do like score chasing on certain games. For me, it's not a must-have, but it's a very, very, very nice to have. Definitely going forward, I think that if the game warrants it, then yes, they should definitely have a leaderboard on it. I wouldn't say put it on there for the sake of it, but certainly for games like, you know, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, things like that, people like to see, you know, the high score. It's definitely something that we want going forward. Like I say, I think every cabinet coming out over the next year, or from here until, you know, the end of time, this should be something implemented as a given. We should have Wi-Fi. We shouldn't see another cabinet where we don't see that live button, or we don't have the Wi-Fi enabled. But I mean, there's ones that are still sort of catching up. The iArcade, they brought out their leaderboards and things like that not too long ago. It didn't launch with them, and that was a mistake. I think that it maybe warranted them holding off for just a little bit longer to implement something like that. But when they did, people took it on. Like, everyone loves a bit of a challenge, and especially if you and a few of your friends have the same cabinet, have the same game. It doesn't have to be the same cabinet, I guess. I mean, from Arcade1Up's point of view, as long as it's a cabinet that runs Miss Pac-Man and it's the same ROM, I guess, then you will appear on the leaderboard, regardless of the cabinet that you're actually on. That leaderboard is the Miss Pac-Man leaderboard, and iArcade implemented theirs, and it's done really, really well. Like, here's an example of one of the ones for what's it called? Rangok Skies, which I've never really played. I know it's a bit of a scrolling shooter, but it's not one that I knew about. And here's one for like Double Dragon. Like, I'm pretty sure Double Dragon has a set high score, doesn't it? Like, it's something like Streets of Rage or Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, there is a limit to how high of a high score you could possibly get based on the number of enemies. I don't think there's a way of getting higher once you've hit that limit. But again, it's nice to see that there's people out there playing it, and they're setting high scores for each other. It's competition, and I think it's definitely a good thing. That iArcade launched it without having them was maybe a miss when they saw how Arcade1Up and AtGames already had it at that stage. But there you go. It's something that they've, lessons learnt, and they've moved on from that. So, another thing that we've seen come in to the cabinets over the past, few months, I guess. I think the ability to play online with friends is, now we've touched on it. AtGames were, again, definitely the first ones to bring it on with their lobby system, and playing online on an arcade game that was never designed to have online play is a feat in itself, and it's something that we probably didn't know we wanted, and now that we have it, we don't want it to go away. Like, Arcade1Up, when they first implemented it, they did it for the Marvel vs. Capcom cab, and that worked brilliantly. That was a fantastic one to start off on, because it's a great game. It's a great fighting game. There is a community of online gamers for that particular fighting genre. So it was a great one to see, and it worked really well. Then it sort of didn't appear again for a little while, until Big Blue appeared, the big Street Fighter cabinet, and this is definitely where it hit its stride. They really implemented it well here. I just sort of full screen myself here. So Big Blue is, I think it's the best implementation that they have of the online play. Not only are you able to jump online with friends, challenge people from all over the world, random people you can jump on, you can start lobbies and things like that, but I need to catch up on my stuff. But the spectator mode that they implemented was just absolutely fantastic. The and it's used in such a really cool way. If you jump over to Put Your Quarters on the Glass, they host tournaments, and not just for Street Fighter, but for other games as well. But the ability to, when something is being hosted like that, the ability to jump on your own cabinet and watch the game being played on there is a fantastic thing. Unfortunately, that's again somewhere where they've dropped the ball. Like Killer Instinct, when it came out, is missing the spectator mode, and I think that's just down to, I honestly think that's just down to Arcade 1UP not thinking about it. They assumed that Code Mystics would have implemented it without being told, because Arcade 1UP thought that it was going to be a feature moving forward. We thought it was going to be a feature moving forward, but no one told the coders, and so it was missed. I think it will be added. I really do. I think that as we go into the window where the Pro cabinet will be coming out for pre-order, that'll be when they implement that. It'll come in. I don't think it'll be a Pro exclusive. I would really doubt that. That would be something really crappy to pull. I think it will. It was a missed feature. It will be addressed, and they'll want to get it addressed before the Pro cabinet comes out. Once that hits the shelves, they'll have the spectator mode in, and that's really cool. I do like that. I do like the spectator mode, and if the rumors of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 are legit, and that is a cabinet coming, yes please, that has to be a thing. That you got to have spectator mode for that game. I would love it. It's definitely going to be a cabinet that I will pre-order, you know, when it comes out over here, if it's legitimate. So, sort of moving on from that, like I said, AtGames had their version of online play, and it was really good. They implemented the lobby, the voice chat and things like that. If they could just improve it, it would have been something that people raved about, but they left it, and other companies have come up behind them and sort of stolen their thunder, and they've implemented the same thing but done it better. Like, I know on some of the Arcade 1UP cabinets there is a headphone jack. Someone out there confirm for me, but I cannot remember if you can plug a headset in while you're playing online. I'm almost sure you can, although now I'm thinking about it, people were talking about just doing FaceTime. Is that a thing? Because if it's not, that would really be cool. That maybe that's something to consider for the next wave, that the headphone jack is actually a headset jack, that, you know, you can take the sound for the headphones. It can also take the microphone. I think that would maybe be something. If it's not there, it should be. It really should be. But yeah, is spectator mode a must-have? I don't think it's a must-have. I definitely think it's a nice-to-have. I mean, it's not going. If it doesn't get implemented in Killer Instinct or Marvel vs. Capcom 2, it would be a disappointment, but it would not stop me from picking up the cabinet. If online multiplayer was left out of a cabinet like Killer Instinct and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, if they went backwards and just had it local play, I would not I would not pick up those two cabinets. That would be a deal breaker. And this is what I'm sort of getting at, that once we've had a taste of something, it becomes the norm for us, and when it's left out, it's a big deal. This is why people gave Arcade1Up such a hard time over the spectator mode being missing from Killer Instinct. I'm saying it's not a big deal because I've never had it. These are people that are coming from Big Blue who go on to it. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a day, maybe it's once in a blue moon, but they've had it, and now they go on to another cabinet and it's an expected feature. When it's not there, to them it's a step backwards. To me, it's not, because I've never experienced it. I don't have that expectation. However, if I had Big Blue and then I bought Killer Instinct and it wasn't there, I'm sure I would feel completely different, because yes, like I say, it's perceived as a step backwards, and if you're not moving forward, you're dead. These are the way people are, that not disloyal but finicky. Arcade1Up, AtGames, iArcade, they've got this great following, but we're not loyal. Most of us anyway. There's maybe a few diehards that, you know, Arcade1Up till I die, you know, that kind of thing. But most, if Arcade1Up and another company brought out the same cabinet, but one had more features, you would drop the other one like a bad habit. Honestly, you would. There's no reason why you would buy an inferior product because of loyalty to a brand. If Arcade1Up doesn't bring what you want to the table, you will go off somewhere else. And this is what I'm talking about when we say moving forward, that if they don't implement these things and someone else does, the market will go that way and Arcade1Up will get left behind. When you're sitting as the market leader on something, it is incredibly easy to lose that position, and it is incredibly difficult to get it back. Once the public has been burnt, getting their trust again is incredibly difficult. It's easier when you're an up-and-comer. You know, you're watching the big guys make mistakes and you're taking notes, and then you can pounce when the time is right, you can jump them, but you've got to keep innovating, otherwise you fall behind. And this is going to be the thing. Like, we've seen iArcade come out of nowhere, really. They were a Kickstarter. They only came onto the market about a year ago, but they have such a huge following now, and it's a great way of doing things. That's online for iArcade was obviously a must, because their whole business revolved around an e-store. So this, the idea of not having Wi-Fi for them would not have worked, but I think that's unique to them. None of these other, like AtGames, could have done it, should have done it, and didn't do it. If they had a store where you could buy the games and the games kept changing, yeah, people would pick them up, people would grab a game here or there, you know. I certainly would have, but you know, they gave other options. They gave options to bring your own games, and I think that's really cool. They left the system sort of open. You know, I can connect it up to Steam, I can stream my games from other devices, or I can go through the option of CoinOps X. And yeah, it was really cool of them to do that, but did it hurt them? guess it depends on how you look at it. Like, maybe they're not looking at ArcadeNet as being their bread and butter. They're looking at units sold, the hardware side of things rather than anything else. Whereas iArcade is the complete opposite. Yes, they care kind of about the units sold, their hardware, but they're making their money from the games on their site, on their e-store. That's where they see things. But I guess we're getting a little bit off track. I think to sum things up, going forward from, because I'll just put it down as iArcade and Arcade 1UP, because I don't think we're going to see any new products out of AtGames. They brought out the Legends Ultimate Mini. I think that's them. What else can you do? They're not moving forward with their online services. There isn't another product that I could think of unless they were going to bring out a mini pinball, but that doesn't really make sense for the market. So, looking at iArcade, they are now moving into online multiplayer. Now, this is only coming out in the last, I think it's starting out now in alpha, and they've only got a few games that are going to be online enabled. One of them being Windjammers, which is really cool. I love a bit of Windjammers. Now, they have said that the service at the start, while it's in alpha, will be free of charge, and you will have the ability to either sync up the lobby to their servers, so you and your friend or whoever you're competing against will both connect into the iArcade servers, and you'll play the game that way. Or, if you wish, you can set it up peer-to-peer, which for fighting games is probably the quicker way of doing things, so you get less lag, especially if you're geographically closer, I guess, which is a really cool way of doing things, being able to select how you want to go about your online experience. Now, because they have said that at first, while it's an alpha, it will be a free service, they're definitely going to implement a fee. Now, what that's going to be, nobody really knows at this stage, or how much it's going to be, or restrictions that they may have. Certainly, I don't think they will start charging for it for a number of months, not until they've added a hefty selection of games, because otherwise you're not going to attract enough people, and they want as many people to experience the online capabilities as possible before they implement the paywall. Because if you do it too early, not enough people have played it, you're not going to get that conversion into subscriptions. So it's going to be really cool. It's definitely going to be one I'm going to be watching quite closely. Now, there's absolutely no word on them bringing the iArcade over to the UK. I've hounded them for months for anything, and I've always just been told we are always looking into ways of expanding our distribution. But for now, even with those gold edition cabinets that came out over the weekend, I mean, my God, they look amazing. But no, there's nothing there for us as yet. But this is really good. It's good to see iArcade moving forward, and I think they know what they want to do with it. They're maybe just testing the waters to see which is the best way of going forward with it. I'm not entirely sure whether they'll keep both options for peer-to-peer and server side. If you were to if it was me, I would say the paid service should be server side, because if it's peer to peer, what am I paying for? You know? Like, I'm not going through their servers, I'm going from one arcade machine to another. You see where I'm going? That I'm not using anything from their side that would cost them anything. It's different if I'm hosting the stuff up on the server, because they need to pay for storage, they need to pay for capacity and bandwidth and throughput and all the rest of it. But if it's just going to be peer-to-peer, then I would say no, I wouldn't pay for that. It's all up in the air whether or not this is them testing the water to see if they would keep it with peer-to-peer and server side. I don't know. I think most people would probably try and go peer-to-peer, but then, yeah, like I said, Arcade 1UP have been doing peer-to-peer for a while. There's no charge because you've already got the hardware. That's what it's running off. Anyway. So yeah, like I say, for Arcade 1UP, I think they need they need to stop dropping the ball. If they have a list of features that people want, and it's definitely for competitive fighting games and things like that, even for cooperative games like Knights of the Round on the Big Blue, apparently it plays really well. The new Turtles one, the Turtles in Time cabinet, it has online multiplayer and it works really well. So I think if the game warrants it, that we definitely should have online multiplayer going forward. I think that should be a given. Like, we're obviously going to see more iterations of Pac-Man. Pac-Man doesn't warrant an online multiplayer. I know you can have a version you can have two players playing it and things like that. That's fine. But I mean, it's the same reason they didn't implement it with Sorry. It's the same reason they didn't implement it with Golden Tee, because then it's somebody looking at their screen waiting on their turn. That's pointless. It only makes sense if it's going to be competitive or cooperative multiplayer at the same time, and that's what they need to be looking at going forward. The leaderboards are great, they're a nice to have, and I think they are doing it as a perceived value added to the cabinet. The real reason for adding Wi-Fi to each of these cabinets should be the ability to push out firmware updates when things go wrong. And they do go wrong. The best will of the world, you'll never be able to produce a product that is perfect. There's always going to be tweaks and iterations and things like that, and that's fine. But you need a way of getting it out to them, and the current way that they have with the either the SD slot or the USB slot in the back, it doesn't work. It's not for people. The ability to push out firmware just over Wi-Fi is the way it should be going forward, and hopefully we'll continue to see that as they move forward with the cabinets. I know there are still ones that have been in development for, best part of a year at this stage. I would highly suggest that they go back. I know they don't fucking listen to any of this. My code has no bugs. I've fucking seen your code. I'm a tester. I can find bugs in any code. And if it's not there, I'll lie about it and make it up. Where was I? Shit. I'm completely off track. Bastard. Where am I? Ooh. The the X Station. Is that the same one that was their version of the one that you installed on the original Xbox? I'm about 30 seconds ahead, so I'll find out in a minute. He's totally blanked me. Bollocks. He's knocked me out. He's knocked me. My train of thought completely derailed. Anyway, yes, I think. Oh yeah. That, like, I know the. That's where I was going. What? You were offering to cook steak on your roof. Yeah. Yeah, like there may be cabinets that they've had in development for about a year. Like, someone needs to point out that if it doesn't have Wi-Fi capabilities, that it's quickly added before it goes to market, because if it goes out without it, all they're going to get is people lining up to complain about it. It's going to be bad publicity, and the cabinet will not sell. But anyway, no PS1. I'm gonna have to check that out. Is it the same kind of device that you installed on the Xbox though? Is it just it's the upscaling, but from a PS1 side of things? Also, with the PS1, I would love to install a hard drive on there, like mod the shit out of it, get rid of the. That back there is hooked up into the Raspberry Pi. I don't need an i5 PC. That wee Raspberry Pi is fantastic. It's like, do you remember you could pull out a PCB from an old arcade machine and it would be the size of the damn monitor, and I must have a wee look into that. X Station. I'll have to have a wee look at that after this. But yeah, you could pull out like a PCB and it would be the size of like one of these monitors. And now I have a Raspberry Pi it's smaller than my bloody mouse, and the amount of games it can run. I know it's emulation, but it's still fairly bloody impressive. Although that's one thing I would love to see, like RetroPie. Like another iteration of RetroPie that would include online. I don't know how you would go about doing that. It would probably have to be peer-to-peer, but the amount of different ROMs that you could grab, like logistically, it would be a fucking nightmare. But yeah, that'd be so much fun. Cheaper than the Terra Onion? If I look this up and it's porn, I'm gonna be pissed. Anyway, thanks very much for joining me, guys. Yeah, I'll definitely want to do something like this again. I hope to get back online at some stage. I do need to finish Deliver Us the Moon and things like that, so hopefully we'll get back onto that as soon as we can. But yeah, thanks very much for joining me, guys, and I really appreciate it. I will see you again later. Bye for now.